For years, landlords held the upper hand in the UK rental market. Prices soared, tenants were squeezed, and bidding wars were the norm. But in 2025, everything's changing. Across the country, rents are finally falling, and tenants are taking control. Why? Overbuilding, rising vacancies, and shifting demand have triggered a rental collapse. In some areas, rents are dropping by double digits, and developers who once boasted long wait lists are now offering incentives, discounts, and even free rent to fill vacancies. This is the moment tenants have waited for. Landlords are panicking, and renters are winning. The rental market has shifted, and no one could have predicted it. Welcome to the UK Dream. Today, we're counting down the top 10 cities where rent is finally falling and tenants are winning in 2025. Stay until number 1. This change could reshape the market for years to come. London, the UK's most iconic housing market, has long been a symbol of unshakable demand. But in 2025, a wave of price reductions is sweeping through the city, the likes of which haven't been seen in over a decade. For the first time in years, rents in some areas of central London have dropped by as much as 12%. Luxury flats, particularly in zones 1 and 2, are the hardest hit, as foreign investors pull back and the city sees fewer international tenants. The pandemic-induced migration away from city centres, combined with high interest rates, has led to an oversupply of rental properties, especially in new builds. In prime areas like Mayfair, Kensington, and Chelsea, demand has softened dramatically, and vacancy rates are rising. Landlords are now offering incentives just to fill properties: free rent for several months, waived deposits, and even luxury upgrades to attract tenants. Meanwhile, areas outside the city centre, like Croydon, Barking, and Havering, are seeing more interest from tenants seeking more affordable options as rents in central London became unaffordable for many. The rental market in London has definitely cooled, and many landlords are facing the uncomfortable reality that their properties, once considered prized investments, are no longer able to generate the returns they once did. Despite the overall fall in rents, property values remain high, though this could be a sign that the market is in the middle of a correction. For renters, this is a rare opportunity, with a larger selection of properties and more room for negotiation on price. For investors and developers, the road ahead is uncertain, with much of the previous growth erased and the market struggling to stabilise. Manchester, the beating heart of northern England, is showing clear signs of a market correction in 2025. The city centre, once brimming with new developments, is now facing an oversupply of properties that simply are not being filled. After years of aggressive building, particularly in areas like Deansgate, Salford Quays, and Spinningfields, vacancy rates are climbing and prices are starting to drop. Rents are down by up to 15% in some of these newly built areas, as developers scramble to attract tenants who have become more selective about where they live. One of the key reasons for the market slowdown is overbuilding. Developers who were once riding high on the influx of young professionals and students moving to Manchester are now finding that the supply of apartments has exceeded demand. Furthermore, the recent rise in interest rates has made it harder for tenants to afford higher rents, and many people are staying put rather than moving. This is particularly evident in the luxury rental market, where rent-free months and discounts have become common offerings from landlords desperate to fill empty units. However, the picture is not all negative. The tech sector continues to thrive, and many areas outside the city centre, like Didsbury, Chorlton, and Fallowfield, are still seeing healthy demand. Yet the shift in power towards tenants is undeniable, as they now have more options than ever before. For landlords, it means adjusting their expectations and offering better deals to keep tenants in place. With vacancy rates continuing to rise, Manchester's once booming rental market is finding its limits. Bristol has long been one of the UK's top cities for renters, with its vibrant cultural scene, booming tech industry, and proximity to London. However, in 2025, the city's rental market is experiencing a significant price correction, with rents dropping by nearly 10% across the city. The main culprit? Overbuilding and high interest rates. Bristol saw an explosion of new builds between 2018 and 2023, particularly in the areas surrounding Bedminster, Harbourside, and Southmead. Many of these developments were based on the assumption that demand would continue to rise. Instead, they've been met with rising vacancies and flattening rent growth. High-end properties, once considered a safe bet for investors, are now struggling. Developers who rushed to build luxury apartments are facing increased competition, and tenant demand is shrinking. With so many newly available units, tenants now have more choices than ever before. Landlords are offering free rent months, waived deposits, and other incentives just to fill vacant units. For tenants, this shift means better deals, as they can negotiate lower prices in a market that has lost much of its previous urgency. In addition, the city's student market, once a major driving force for the rental sector, has softened. Many students, especially international ones, are choosing cheaper living options or opting for smaller, less expensive properties. As demand weakens and vacancy rates climb, Bristol's housing market is transitioning from a period of unrealistic growth into one of correction. The future of the city's rental market will depend on how well it can rebalance supply and demand in the face of changing economic conditions. Glasgow, Scotland's largest city, is facing a tough year in 2025 as its once booming rental market begins to slow. Over the past decade, the city has seen significant growth in property prices and rents, driven by urban regeneration projects and a steady influx of students and young professionals. However, with rising interest rates and a shrinking workforce, the demand for rental properties has started to fall. Rents in Glasgow have dropped by up to 9% in some areas, particularly in new developments like Finnieston and Merchant City, where vacancy rates have risen sharply. The initial appeal of modern, high-rise apartments is wearing off as tenants are looking for more affordable housing options, particularly in the wake of rising living costs. The rise in costs of living, including fuel, food, and energy bills, has made it harder for renters to afford the premium rents that were once the norm. Furthermore, the supply of new builds has outpaced demand, particularly in central areas. The city's growing student accommodation market, which once kept the rental sector buoyant, has slowed. Many developers now find themselves stuck with unsold units, and landlords are offering large incentives just to secure tenants. With high vacancy rates and shrinking demand, Glasgow's rental market is facing a correction, and in 2025, it is no longer the surefire investment it once was. For renters, however, this presents an opportunity to secure better deals as landlords offer more flexible terms and lower rents. Cardiff's housing market has been a rising star in recent years, but in 2025, it is showing signs of a dramatic slowdown. High rents and a weakening student market have combined to push the city's rental prices into a sharp decline. Rents have dropped by double digits in many parts of the city, with some areas seeing decreases of up to 12% from last year. One of the key drivers behind the drop is affordability. Cardiff's housing market has always been heavily dependent on student demand, but with fewer international students arriving and a growing number of students opting for cheaper suburbs, this demand is no longer as strong. The high cost of living across the city is also pushing tenants to seek more affordable alternatives, especially as rents for luxury flats rise faster than local wages can support. At the same time, developers have been flooding the market with new builds. The abundance of new luxury apartments, often built to attract young professionals, has created a supply glut. As demand has slowed, rents have fallen to reflect the oversupply. Landlords are offering rent-free periods, discounted rates, and other incentives just to secure tenants. This shift means tenants have more power than ever before, as the once hot Cardiff market cools rapidly. For landlords, the news is less positive. Many are struggling to keep up with rising costs and declining rent levels. Cardiff's housing market has shifted from a period of rapid growth to one of consolidation and caution, and 2025 may well be the year it finally corrects. For renters, however, it's a long-awaited opportunity to gain some leverage and secure better deals. Leeds, once hailed as a property investment success story, is now facing a sharp decline in rental prices. In 2025, vacant apartments in regenerated areas are becoming increasingly common, and rents are dropping by 8 to 10% in some parts of the city. The reason for this downturn is twofold: an oversupply of new developments and a shift in demand. Between 2021 and 2024, Leeds saw a massive influx of new housing, particularly in areas like South Bank, Holbeck, and Leeds Dock. These areas were once seen as prime locations for young professionals and students. However, with a flood of new builds, demand has failed to keep up with the increase in supply. Many of these luxury apartments, originally priced at a premium, now sit vacant for months. To attract tenants, developers and landlords are slashing rents, offering rent-free months, and even waiving deposits. The combination of rising interest rates, inflation, and stagnant wages has left many renters with fewer options, while high rents make the city less attractive. The student market, once a stable driver of demand, is also showing signs of slowing down. Fewer international students are arriving, and many are opting for more affordable housing in nearby towns. For tenants, this is a win. Renters now have more power than ever before, with landlords desperate to fill vacant units. But for investors and developers who flooded the market in recent years, Leeds' once thriving rental sector is now struggling, and the dream of endless growth is over. Nottingham's rental market in 2025 is facing a dramatic downturn, driven by an oversupply of new builds and stagnating demand. Over the past few years, developers built hundreds of new flats, particularly in areas like Nottingham Waterside and Sneinton Market. But despite the city's strong job market and educational institutions, the demand simply hasn't kept pace with the rise in supply. As a result, vacancy rates are rising and rents are falling. In some parts of the city, rents have dropped by up to 12% in the past year. The luxury flats that were once in high demand are now sitting empty, and landlords are offering massive discounts and incentives just to fill the space. Developers, too, are starting to cut prices and offer rent reductions to attract tenants. Part of the problem lies in affordability. Renters in Nottingham are increasingly struggling with the cost of living, and many are opting to stay put or move to cheaper areas rather than pay higher rents. The influx of new builds in the city has only exacerbated this issue. With supply flooding the market and no corresponding rise in demand, developers and landlords are facing losses. For tenants, however, this presents an opportunity. The market is becoming much more tenant-friendly, with a larger selection of properties and more room for negotiation. But for landlords and developers, 2025 represents a period of consolidation and recalibration. The rapid price hikes of previous years are gone, and rents are normalizing, or in some cases, falling significantly. Birmingham, one of the largest cities in the UK, has seen a massive influx of new housing projects in recent years. However, in 2025, this oversupply is leading to falling rents and a climbing vacancy rate across the city. Many of the new developments, particularly in areas like Digbeth, Brindley Place, and Broad Street, were built to meet the growing demand for city centre living. Yet demand has not followed the level of construction, leaving many properties unfilled. As a result, rents have fallen sharply, with some areas seeing a drop of up to 15% compared to previous years. Developers, unable to fill their new luxury apartments, are offering huge rent discounts and incentives like free rent for the first few months or deposit-free leases to secure tenants. This has turned Birmingham from a competitive rental market into a tenants market. The root causes are clear. Rising interest rates have made buying more difficult, while inflation has left renters with less disposable income. Furthermore, many renters are simply choosing to stay in their current homes rather than move to more expensive new builds. With rents continuing to fall and vacancy rates rising, it's clear that Birmingham's rental market has reached a turning point. For tenants, this is an opportunity to negotiate better deals, but for developers and landlords, the outlook is grim. The city is facing a correction, and those who overestimated the demand for high-end city centre living are now dealing with the consequences. Southampton's rental market, once a hotspot for investors, is now facing a decline in the luxury rental sector. After a period of rapid growth in the early 2020s, the market is now cooling, and prices are dropping. Rents in the luxury apartment market are down by nearly 10%, and vacancy rates are rising across the city. A major factor contributing to this decline is the oversupply of luxury flats in areas like Ocean Village and West Quay. These high-end developments, which once commanded premium rents, are now struggling to attract tenants. Landlords who once rented out units within days are now offering incentives like free rent or reduced deposits to fill vacancies. Even with these offers, units are sitting empty for longer than expected. Additionally, service charges and maintenance costs in these developments have surged, making them less attractive to tenants who are already struggling with the cost of living. The luxury rental market, which was once seen as a safe investment, is now facing a slow decline, with many properties seeing rents cut or incentives offered just to secure tenants. For renters, this shift presents an opportunity. With more available properties and more negotiating power, tenants can secure better deals. For investors and developers, however, the future of the luxury rental market in Southampton looks uncertain. The once thriving sector is now struggling, and the downturn could last well into the future. Newcastle, a city that has traditionally seen stable rental growth, is now facing a decline in rents in key areas. The impact of the economic downturn and corporate layoffs has hit the housing market hard, with many tenants now in control of negotiations for the first time in years. In 2025, rents in Newcastle are falling by up to 8%, particularly in the city centre and areas like Jesmond and Gosforth. One of the key issues is the slow job market. With redundancies in major sectors like tech and finance, fewer workers are moving to Newcastle, which has led to lower demand for rental properties. As companies scale back hiring, many renters are opting for more affordable housing options or even moving out of the city altogether. This has caused an increase in vacant properties, and landlords are now offering discounts and incentives to fill units. The oversupply of student housing, once a stronghold of the rental market, has also contributed to the decline. With fewer international students and a slower growth rate, the student rental sector is no longer providing the same level of demand. For tenants, the shift has created an opportunity to secure better deals and negotiate lower rents. However, for landlords and developers who relied on rising prices, the situation is less favorable. The economic slowdown, combined with a shrinking workforce and weakened demand, has turned Newcastle into a tenants market, where prices are falling and vacancies are rising. There you have it. The top 10 cities where tenants are finally winning in 2025. Rents are falling, the balance of power is shifting, and landlords who once held all the cards are scrambling to keep up. If you're renting, now's the time to take advantage of the changes happening in these cities. For investors, it's a wake-up call. The market is transforming before our eyes. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this video with anyone who needs to know about the dramatic shifts happening in the UK rental market. The era of soaring rents is over, and the UK dream is here to keep you ahead of the curve.